Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from Truth Infinite 8073 and says, am I the arsehole here for wanting to leave my fiance due to her abusive family? I've been dating my fiance for 4 years and have been engaged for 7 months. We're trying to plan out a wedding for roughly fall next year. Her childhood was terrible and abusive, to put it mildly. Her parents were raging narcissists and she was the scapegoat for her 2 brothers. She was abused and thrown out the moment she turned 18. She was, however, a great student and a hard worker. So with some scholarships and a part-time job, she had a great career and is pretty independent. The problem is, though, is that she still had contact with her family. None of them have changed. Well, actually, something has changed. They've become more financially dependent on her. They enjoy slowly creeping back into her life and emotionally blackmailing her for support or whatever she can do. They're not pleasant about it either. They're rude, smug, and generally enjoy being a nuisance, and my fiance can't say no. No matter the horrible things they say or how they outright try and intimidate her openly. I've always known her family history and have always supported her through the issues with them. But in the last year or so, they've become far more brazen and asinine. They have come over to our house more often. They make messes all around the place. Her mother acts like she's a fucking stepmother from Cinderella. Her dad drinks all my fucking beer and empties out half the fridge. Her brothers stop by occasionally to act as mouthpieces for their parents. They practically trash the place and leave us to clean the mess. And where is my fiance in all this? Quietly standing in the corner, practically shaking. I'm no fool here. There is legitimate trauma. There's her need to feel loved by them and her hoping they will appreciate her. Before one of you noble commenters states the obvious, she's been in therapy for this for years. I've tried to establish boundaries. For nearly 2 years I've been trying to push these arse clowns away. But this is her house she purchased, and no matter the contributions of financial or otherwise, will she let me have a say on who comes into her house. She's been beaten down mentally and emotionally by them for so long. She has told me recently that she wants to earn their approval, how they were right about her, how she needs to be better for them. I've had too many emotional conversations with tears and begging to count, hoping she will take the steps to get better. But she's an adult. I can't force her to do anything. I love her, but I can't help but feel so resentful of what she's doing. It's agonizing watching someone you love, someone you know deserves so much better, openly destroy themselves for people like her family. It's been painful watching her cry herself to sleep one too many nights because of them. I've tried too many times to help her get out of their clutches, but I have to think of the future. What happens when we have kids? What happens when she is postpartum and invites them over? What happens if there's a medical emergency for either of us? What if our finances get tight and they still demand money? This is the in-law family from hell, and I won't be able to avoid them. Tomorrow I'm going to tell her how I want to delay the wedding until firm boundaries are established. If she resents, I walk. I can't do it anymore. I refuse to watch a slow death like this any further. Update: talked to her and it went about as well as one possibly expected. Currently getting myself set up in a hotel for a few days and working on possible long-term plans for moving out. Still a lot going on right now, but maybe sometime next week I'll be able to put everything together into one update. Now look, I feel for anyone that's gone through trauma, and she's clearly gone through trauma like you said yourself, but at the same time, she needs to help herself, and you can't force someone to get that help. They need to recognize it. It sounds like you've tried time and time again for her to get this help. And you're also right to ask those questions about your future. If you do have kids, postpartum, medical emergency, your finances getting tight, you're right to ask all those questions because this is your future and they will keep on. And I know you said therapy, perhaps a different therapist if she isn't improving. And it's just so sad, isn't it? And we read a story recently where the OP got themselves out of basically an abusive family, and they was explaining it like it being like a drug, and they had good moments where they was treated fairly, and you know, then you start to crave that, but then the abuse came into it, and And then it was just like a cycle and it went round and round again. And I know OP's already done this, but I just feel like that one last chance of sitting down with her, that face-to-face talk, just letting it all out, saying, you know, that our relationship will be coming to an end. I can't, and saying exactly what you said to her, I can't watch these people destroy you. It's agonizing to watch someone that you love so much destroy themselves for people like that family. Like I said, I know OP's probably done this time and time again, but KM Flushing says, not the arsehole. You can't save her if she doesn't want to be saved. Even if she wants to, you'd only be able to help and support. She needs to be the one to enforce the boundaries and hold them, but she doesn't. It's up to you if you want this for life. Have you spoken to her about where you are? That you're on the verge of breaking up with her for this lack of boundaries? No, it's not to manipulate her into choosing you, or though some will say that. It's just a statement of fact. She may be willing to sacrifice everything for her family, but you are not. If this is the life you have to look forward to, you don't want it. You need to put yourself and your needs first. Who knows, it may prompt her to open her eyes and put herself first with her family, but likely not. Prairie Girl says not the arsehole. She's got all the power in this situation with her abusers, but she's been trained from birth that she's helpless before them. If she won't protect her home with you, you have to save yourself. Dawn Shaka says, not the arsehole. Your problem is not just your horrible in-laws, it's your dearly loved partner. Much as you love her, as much as you want to help her, as long as she is locked in the perception that she has to please them, you cannot help her. And you should not tie your life to her, not expose your future children to a toxic family. God's Girl 64 says, not the arsehole. I've been a therapist for 35 years, and if she is still this fragile, then she needs a new therapist. It sounds like as if she's made absolutely no progress on these issues. This will destroy her if she doesn't do something soon. You're not wrong to want to distance from these people. You can't force her to get help or do anything else, but you need to take care of yourself, and you're right about the future. It would be irresponsible to the point of abuse to bring kids into this relationship. And the final comment from I Wanna, who says, not the arsehole. She's drowning and she's taking you with her. She needs to stop letting her abusive family hold her down and focus on being able to float. You can't help people who won't help themselves. You can't set yourself on fire to help someone else that's already burning. You're right. It's an absolute toxic environment for starting a family. Your fiance will let her abusers not only have access to children, but is highly likely to perpetuate the abuse as she doesn't know any better and refuses to learn otherwise. If she believes what her family have told her, she'll project those lessons onto her children. OP comes in with her first update and says, the night after I made the first post, I decided that I was going to have a heart-to-heart with my fiance about her family. However, she came back from work the next day early, and I was already off that day, so I initiated the talk a little sooner than I had planned. Essentially, I told her how this arrangement was not sustainable. I did not feel comfortable marrying her due to how much involvement in her life her family has, and I certainly did not feel comfortable bringing a child into this world with them. I didn't want to tell her cold turkey, no contact with them, but strict limitations to start with on them coming over and what they can do around the house. I also requested couples therapy before marriage. She wasn't happy. She was just staring angrily at me, and while I spoke and then started yelling at me when I finished. She told me I don't understand their dynamic, and it worked for her. I told her that they're abusive users who will bleed her dry, and I've never seen them show any decency to her. She told me she just had to work harder for them to appreciate her. I basically yelled at her that a parent's child shouldn't have to beg and plead and work for them to be loved. I finally told her that she sets limits with them or I walk. She was livid, and since I was living in her house, I was kicked out. For the past few days, I've been staying in a hotel and I've had my stuff taken out and put into storage. And frankly, it's been great. I'm going to stay with family for a few weeks around mid-July, and after that I'm going to go house searching for myself. I've spent the last couple of days relaxing, catching up on movies and video games I haven't had time for, and could go back from work to a quiet room without her family tearing the place apart. Yesterday, however, things came to a head. We've had basically no contact since she booted me out. But I know every Saturday her family loves to spend the afternoon over, and she uses me as a shield from their abuse. However, in a petty move, I simply kept my phone muted all day and played Disco Asylum. I knew she would call back for help with her family, and at this point, pure resentment was kicking in for her, and I wanted nothing to do with her issues. By the end of the night, she had sent me over a dozen texts and finally 2 frantic voicemails begging me to come home. I decided to come over to check up on her. Long story short, she was sobbing in the living room, and when I came to talk to her, she was practically crushing my back, hugging me and sobbing. I gave her time to cool off and asked what happened. Long story short, her parents and brother came by to gift money from her and say horrible shit to her. She wanted to have me come over to help, but I was ignoring her. And when she tried to have one of her friends help out and everyone basically said, fuck that, it all started clicking in for her. She kicked her family out, but not before they said some utterly vile shit to her I won't repeat. She kept apologizing to me and told me over and over to come home. I told her plainly that I'd started to build up heavy resentment towards her for some time, and while I loved her and understand it was trauma and her not being outright abusive, there were major issues that would need to be addressed if we were to move forward. 1, she sells the house and moves. We make roughly the same amount of money and we will buy a house together. I'm a grown-ass man and would not live in a house I have no equal agency over. 2, her family will never step foot in it. They will never come over. They will be treated by me in a very threatening manner if they try and come in. 3, she gets a new therapist and we start premarital counseling. 4, she never makes me interact with her family. 5, we will go low contact with her family right now, but make no mistake, we are working towards full no contact on her end. I told her I love her. We have been together for a while now and have beautiful memories together. And I know she is suffering from abuse, but these are non-negotiable. And if she has a problem with any of them, we have to go our separate ways. She told me she's realized for a while that her family is toxic and unhealthy and she wants to make changes. She's accepted, but some of these will take a while to see through. For now, I'm going to stay in the hotel until I head back to stay with my family. She's welcome to come over, but I've made it clear her house is not somewhere I want to go. Her and I are both off tomorrow, so we'll spend the day here and maybe go out. This is obviously not over yet, but I might not post anything else until mid-August or so. Opie comes in with their update number 2 and says despite all intentions of not updating until much later with the hopes of an improved relationship with my fiance and her establishing boundaries with her toxic family, we're now broken up. Essentially what happened was after last weekend I left her for the time to deal with them herself. She seemed to finally grasp the situation and was open to changes, including boundaries and a possible move. We spent Monday and Tuesday hanging out in my hotel that I was staying in until I went back to my family for a couple of weeks. The other night she was being very vague with texting when she was originally supposed to come over. She came much later than expected and I knew something was up. She basically unloaded on me how I was abusive, controlling, overly demanding and unsupportive. It took me 5 fucking seconds to figure out she was repeating verbatim some sort of rehearsed speech from her parents. And to be honest, I was so agitated at this point, despite making a huge gamble on her, I decided to be a prick about it. I asked her if her family told her to say this. She said they suggested it to her, but she came up with it herself. Sure. I asked her to explain in detail what I did. She said I was living like a parasite off her. I reminded her that I'm paying 50-50 for her fucking mortgage, 50-50 for utilities and groceries as well. I have my own car I pay for, a job that makes just about as much as hers. Unlike her fucking leech parents who demanded payments on the weekly and raid the kitchen on the weekends. I told her to try again with something better. She looked flustered and said I was trying to isolate her. I kinda smirked like a jackass and told her I've always supported her many friendships that she has destroyed on her own because no one wants to deal with her family or be used as a shield like me. I was practically demanding to know at this point why she's so hell-bent on destroying her life for these people. She just kind of shouted that I don't understand her family and she's just trying to earn their love back and was basically ranting at that point. It's just so staggering to see up close. I've ventured into a few subreddits to get perspectives, and if you have any familiarity with them, you'll see how people who are victims of abuse by their own family can be so utterly broken by it that it'll wreck their brain, to where they truly believe they're the problem and they deserve the abuse. Well, that's how she was. She was utterly broken and didn't want help. She didn't want to get better, she just wanted to get worse. It hit me like a truck, honestly, the realization. I really did feel like a fool for trying. even if it was what I was supposed to do in the first place. She was practically berserk at this point, and I was just mentally exhausted and needed her to leave before someone called the police. She finally left, but I had a few concerned neighbors check on me. Some of her friends are aware as they've messaged me checking on the situation. I told them the truth and that I just needed to be alone to think what to do next right now. They've revealed that she has given them similar rants after they expressed concern for her. One had even heard that she may be possibly at risk of losing her job. She's definitely having some sort of mental break. From my understanding, she is now completely isolated. She is actually sprinting into a horrible, lonely life right now. There's nothing I can do for her at this point, and as selfish as it sounds, I'm just glad it's going to be behind me. And we have one more update in a moment, but it's absolutely heartbreaking. Like OP says, watching someone destroy yourself, go downwards like that. But I still agree with all the comments that OP just needs to help themselves in this situation. Look, OP's tried time and time again, but is making no progress. As soon as she goes back home, the family will twist it back onto OP. And I kind of wonder if it's the same situation with the therapist, why she seems to be making no progress there either. That she goes to therapy, comes back, family twist it to suit whatever narrative they have, and then she's back at square one trying to earn whatever she can from them. And I can't imagine what OP's thinking while having to deal with all this at the same time, watching someone that you love or loved go through that. But OP comes in with update 3 and says things have kind of wrapped up, but there were some loose ends. I completely forgot to change my mailing address, which I should have done ASAP. So a couple of important things got sent to her house. I had to go and pick them up, plus a final couple of items I want for my move that I left there and decided I wanted to actually take. She's being difficult and not responding to messages in regards to them, so I had to go and get them from her myself. I brought a mutual friend just in case. Thankfully, she was at least cooperative in letting me get my stuff, and it wasn't much of an issue. Everything else was though. She had a lot of nasty things to say, telling me she was already sleeping around, telling me how happy she was that I was gone, telling me she's finally free of me, how she's going to be so much better off without me. A lot of generic insults and horrible things you would commonly expect from a nasty breakup. And you know what? It was so fucking obvious it was a rehearsed script from her family, and you could easily see how miserable she was. She looked like a mess, like she hadn't slept in days. The house was a mess. She wasn't even yelling it. She sounded so exhausted and broken when she said it. She didn't even smile when she said anything. Just a face contorted in hate and anger. She was not the woman I knew anymore. That person was gone. When I was getting ready to leave, she was still going on. I was fed up and told her something along the lines of, "Congratulations, your friends are gone, your human shields are gone, your engagement is over, your support is gone. Anyone who treated you like a decent human being is gone. It's just you and your family. I hope you're happy while they bleed you dry." It probably didn't go like that, but something like it. She just stood there. Literally just stood there and looked at me with indifference and walked away as I walked out the door. As we were leaving, the mutual friend Tiffany asked if I was okay. I reassured her I was, and I'm just trying to get myself set up to go home next week. She also confirmed that she heard my ex did lose her job for not showing up for several days and basically ghosted them. They're going to try to do an intervention next week and asked if I could participate. But I'm not delaying my travel because frankly, I just want a clean break. I know for a fact that if I stay involved in, I'm only going to be witnessing the slow descent to either a full break or a suicide. And I just can't do that. Despite all this, I'm actually excited for the future, and I've realized that I ignored way too many red flags at the beginning. Even with everything that happened, I know I'll be doing good and I'm going to be alright. I expect this to be my final update. I'm still in town until Sunday afternoon, so something could happen while I'm still here. But if anything does, it won't be exciting. Now, all I can really say on the back of that one is I'm glad that OP did get themselves out of that situation. It truly feels like OP said it's going to be rock bottom before anything potentially changes. And that's fucking sad. And, you know, that's sad for OP that he's had to watch a loved one like that go through all this and, you know, treat OP the way he's been treated at the same time. But I'm not excusing any of the behavior, what she did. The way she's treated OP the way through this is absolutely disgusting. And OP is absolutely right to take themselves out of that situation, clean break, and just not be a part of it anymore. At the same time, I hope she does, somewhere along the line, something, this intervention, something somewhere, gives her the realization about what her family is truly like. Because she simply needs to get herself out of that situation. Like all the comments are saying, she's spiraling out of control because of these people, and they don't care. They're getting money from her. You know, they're eating her food, treating her like shit at the same time, being abusive towards her, and she needs to be out of that situation as well. Again, no excuse for any of the behavior that she's shown towards OP in this story. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's story. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.